and welcome to Netball Nation. Now, can you believe it? We have reached double figures for the second series already, and Pod 10 is, of course, powered by the lovely people at Netball UK. Now, I am joined, as always, by Sarah Bayman and our very own Mags, both coming from the living rooms again, by the looks of things. Are we, girls?
Absolutely. We're coming from our living rooms. Where are you coming from?
Right, well, I need to address
what
this.
What dungeon have you got locked in?
For anyone who is listening, wondering what Sarah and Mags are referencing, I'm in my dad's camper van on the drive because basically I've been doing a few podcasts recently from the kitchen, and I was getting in the way because it's the main place that we eat a lot in our family. So my dad was like, can you just do it in the camper van where I have black net curtains behind me, so it all looks a bit dodgy, but I can assure you it's above board. We're all safe and well. Yeah.
If at any point you don't feel safe and well, just, breathe on the window and write help.
Give Mags a sign, she knows.
Yeah, I've still got connections.
I'll bring me A4 sheet of paper next time. Mags and Sarah, tell us one thing that you have done since we last spoke. That's different from the usual.
I've decided I'm going to have treat Tuesdays, so I just bake something ridiculously calorie-laden, just having a Tuesday evening with my daughter.
Love this, because we know you did the chocolate cake that sounded amazing.
Yeah. Well, I made triple choc cookies.
There's a theme here, isn't there?
Yes.
Obviously, I hate chocolate, but I do it for my child.
And you've got to try them, haven't you, Mags?
Maybe just to make sure they're not poisonous, because I've had my life. I don't want to end hers.
You're so selfless, Mags.
Thanks, babe.
Well, I'm sure Sarah agrees that we'll volunteer ourselves to try them when we're back in the studio again.
I shall make some.
Thank you. What about you, Sarah? What have you been doing?
I have started riding my bike.
Yeah.
Which hasn't been out of the garage since I was about 12.
Hang on, does it still fit you?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I was a big 12-year-old. So we're fine on that front. I've got such a massive head, though. I had to get like a large / extra large bike helmet. So if you see like a bobblehead on a bike, that will be me.
Can we please get a photo to put on the Netball Nation socials?
I showed Stacey and she was like, you look like an 8-year-old. You've got like a massive head and then there's nothing.
I've got an image now of that you can buy these little plastic things that sit on your dashboard.
Yeah. That's it.
Well, if you're listening to this and wondering what Sarah does look like on a bike with a helmet, we will try and get a photo out of her to get on the socials, so keep your eyes peeled on Netball Nation. Now, before we do start this week's show, we want to remind you of our fantastic competition that we launched in last week's show. To keep your team netballing with Netball Nation, powered by Netball UK and supported by ASICS, we are giving you the chance to win a pair of ASICS professional double F black netball trainers for you and every member of your team, so that when you finally back together, you'll be wearing shoes that let you be the best you can be on court. And we'll even add print ID to every pair so you don't get them mixed up. To enter the competition, all you've got to do is go to www.keepnetballing.uk, where you can also read all the T's and C's. Now, we love this one. It's been very popular so far. Probably doesn't surprise you. And I know that the two girls that I work with are very big fans of it. Aren't you, Maggie and Sarah?
We are.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Here they are.
So, for anyone listening and not seeing, Mags and Sarah have both got a pair of these trainers that they are flashing right now on Zoom. They look incredible. Mags has got her name on them. Sarah, yours says SEB, doesn't it? Yeah.
That's my initials.
Have you both been wearing? Did you wear them on your bike ride?
Well, no, I've not been on a bike ride since I got them.
Okay.
But I will do. Maybe I'll send you a picture of me and my trainers on my bike ride.
Yes, would love that. And what about you, Mags? Because you've been keeping fit in lockdown. Have you been wearing yours?
I've not had them physically on my feet as yet, but I will send a picture when they're in use.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we give you a mini review
Thank
on
you.
next week's show. Now, on today's show, we've got a special guest you'll have heard a lot of if you follow Super League Netball. And on top of that, plenty of high-class chat from Sarah and Mags, of course. Firstly, netball trips. You know the ones. We'll be discussing our memories of playing netball near and far in club tournaments and school competitions. Secondly, the ANZ Premiership. It was announced this week that the Elite League in New Zealand is coming back on the 19th of June. But before all that, we have got another Caroline on the show, Manchester Thunder's Caroline O'Hanlon. Now, she's used to juggling plenty of things at the same time, working as a doctor in a native Northern Ireland alongside playing for Thunder and captaining her home nation. But a global pandemic has landed even more on Caroline's plate, and we are desperate to hear all about how being a netball playing doctor during the coronavirus has been going. So, Caroline, first up, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for being here on Netball Nation, despite your crazy schedule right now.
Thanks for having me. I suppose things are actually probably calmer than they normally are. I'm stuck in one place like everybody else, so there's not the same movement. But yeah, very different to maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, certainly, for us all. I'm working in general practice, so I'm based in a GP practice most days, and then we cover COVID centres. I'm not sure if that's fully operational or if they work in the same way in England, but we have COVID centres. That's where we send patients who are not sick enough to need hospital, but who need to be assessed. And we don't bring them into our practice, we send them to the COVID centres. So we as GPs cover those centres and cover our own practices as well. So I'm working between the two at the moment.
How are you finding that, Caroline?
It's weird how you adapt to things, and now I suppose like it's all like social distancing and everything now becomes normal. So it's normal now, but it's certainly very, very different to what it was a couple of months ago. And getting them set up, I mean, there was a lot of anxiety and fear around these places and what kinds of patients we were going to see. You know, were they going to be very sick? You know, were they going to, you know, did we have enough facilities at these centres to cope with patients who were very sick? Because obviously you weren't in a hospital environment where you have, you know, oxygen and intensive care and these things to back you up. So there was a lot of chat and a lot of anxiety around setting those things up.
Caroline, what does it look like? What does a COVID centre look like in where you are?
There's the one that I work in is it would have been like an old hospital. It's like an outpatient building essentially. So it's where clinics are run usually. So the hospital's one of the satellite clinics for the hospital. So it doesn't have A&E facilities. So if someone becomes very sick, you don't have that resource facility to cope with them. So that's where a lot of that anxiety came from. So we triage a lot of them by telephone before they go to these centres. So there's a lot of pressure on that you assess them properly and that you're not sending somebody who is potentially sick to those places, because that wouldn't be safe. So there's a lot of pressure when you're speaking to them on the phone to assess how unwell they are and where the most appropriate place to send them is. But obviously, like you've seen on the television, you know, day to day we're fully PPE'd up, you know, from head to toe. So that in itself is a very unnatural situation, because I mean, you imagine these patients, they're watching the news, they're hearing the statistics about COVID-19, and you know, the death rates are all that are really reported. You're not hearing a whole lot about, you know, the vast amount of people who are, you know, doing really well and surviving. It's all about the death rates. So there's a lot of fear when people come in and they think they might have COVID. So it's very hard for you to reassure them when you're in a mask, a gown, and you look like you're, you know, in a flipping nuclear ward, you know. So that's very unnatural, because you're used to just reassuring patients, sort of, you know, touching them and examining them, and now you're standing off them. You know, you're afraid of catching something off them, and equally you're afraid of giving something to them because you don't know what you are carrying, I suppose, potentially. So it's very, very unnatural.
Well, Caroline, obviously, I mean, before you joined us, Sarah was just saying she hasn't even been to the supermarket during this time. We've managed to avoid as much human, you know, getting in contact with humans as possible. Just personal interest, really. I want to know from someone who's seeing this, what's it like mentally for you?
Initially, there was a lot of apprehension, because you feel like you're going into those environments, and you know you have the potential not just to get sick yourself, but to be you know, a vector for the disease, so to carry it home to your friends, your family. And you worry about your vulnerable relatives that you could potentially do, that they become very ill. And just when the figures were coming out at the start and you were hearing the stories from Italy, we kind of thought that this was just going to be overwhelming. And I suppose it was that fear, and certainly, and a lot of unrest, certainly within my colleagues and friends when you were chatting about it, just that unknown. But now I suppose here in Northern Ireland, like, our figures have been pretty good. They haven't reached the scales that they had potentially predicted. There have been deaths, which obviously have been awful, but they haven't reached the scales that they had potentially thought could happen. So it is a bit different. I think we're in a different environment to maybe in England as well. But it's just that fear of coming out of it and how best to do that, because as soon as you let people loose, there is that fear that things will spike again.
And I think you're still on the stay home, aren't you, at the moment in Northern Ireland? Whereas in England, they've let us sort of like wiggle our wings a little bit.
Stay home. Don't stay home, but go out if you have to, but don't go out.
Yeah.
Stay alert, guys.
That's how
stay
clear
alert.
It is. Yeah, that's the clear.
But Caroline, what has been an outlet for you? Is there anything that you've been doing to sort of give yourself some mental space?
The first few weeks were hard. I thought, we were working a lot, and because I was working part-time and going to England and stuff, being back and work full time all week and at the weekends as well was a big shock to the system. So I wasn't doing as much training, and you sort of felt crap when you were worried about things, and just it was a bit of a rut. We were trying to keep in touch with your teammates and stuff, but still it's hard. You have programs obviously to work off in terms of training, but it is hard. The last couple of weeks we started to do a bit more with our Thunder teammates for a bit of crack, so having different challenges over the weeks, so that's actually been great. That something competitive is the way to keep on top of it, I think. Training with no end goal and no target is really hard, and especially when you're just used to having something always on the horizon, to have that uncertainty is quite hard to motivate yourself, I suppose. So certainly having the support of Thunder and having those challenges, just sort of silly things like just exercise challenges, and then getting stupid photos or doing videos, or just a real variety of things, just for a bit of crack, like.
And how's morale been? Because you mentioned that. How's morale been amongst your teammates?
It's been good on the whole. I think the group are all very keen to get back to something. Although we appreciate that obviously safety is going to come first, and we've no idea when anything's going to happen. But the group's just keen to have something, and while I know there's a lot of debate in terms of what that's going to look like, and whether there's going to be a league or whether they're going to have a different structure. I think us as a group we're netball supporters as much as players, and you don't want to see a massive gap whenever netball has had such a good momentum, to go from sort of March until the middle of next February without any competitive netball for spectators, or for us as supporters is a nightmare. Like, so we're keen to do whatever we can to have something in that period.
How do you see it looking? Like, obviously, as and when it's safe to play netball again, how do you see the Super League season looking?
That's the magic question, isn't it?
Please help us.
Yeah. A lot of it, I don't know. I think a lot of it depends on Netball England. So your guess is as good as mine. It's difficult over here because we, as you've already said, are having sort of different messages. So we're hearing obviously messages from the UK government, messages from the Irish government, and then our devolved government are doing their own thing as well. So it's very hard to really know what's going to happen. So we're kind of looking at 3 different plans out of it. So it's really hard to know. In terms of sport over here, there's because I play Gaelic as well, I'm looking at what's happening with that, and there's been some chat about like club structures will get back up and running before county level. So that would be the equivalent of like Prem or local leagues, even before Prem. Getting up and running first, and then county later in the year. A lot of it depends on sort of, I suppose, England's international calendar as well. They don't make, suppose we don't know what's happening with any of those fixtures as well. So
no, it's a strange time, and we seem to be asking the same question every week on Netball Nation. And like you say, it is the magic question because no one knows, do they? It's not like we've got a crystal ball and we can look to the future. But for you personally, Caroline, how do you see your future in netball?
Oh, that's another hard question.
Sorry.
I don't know, because again, like what I've been doing probably for the last 15 years has been sort of just taking it a year at a time and assessing how the year's gone and how I'm feeling and how my body's feeling and what sort of injuries and things I've had and what sort of balance I have in my life at that time and sort of making a call. I mean, obviously I was looking forward to this season very much so to defend our title, but I mean, don't know how that's going to go yet, but it's going to be very hard because I mean, you base a lot on how the season is going, so I don't know what way things are going to work for movement within the franchises. Like, I think it's going to be interesting certainly, but I don't know. At this moment in time, having been 6 weeks without having any purpose, you kind of would love to get back to training for a purpose. So in that sense, at the moment, I'm feeling very keen to play. But as I say, I don't know. It's not; those decisions are not completely in my sole control.
Well, Caroline,
can we say, Caroline, if I may be allowed to say, I mean, I'm going to call it as you get a little bit more mature within your netball life, you're looking physically on at the best you ever have. You are looking fabulously fit and toned. I think the term might even be buff. Can we say that? I've said it. But you're looking well, you're looking healthy, you're looking fit and physically in shape. How are you managing to do all that? And the fantastic word, will raise my coffee to you as a doctor within the NHS. You're clearly finding time to do all that and keeping yourself well.
Yeah, but I mean, training is very much contributes to that. I like to keep fit, and it makes me feel better, and I function better in work. Because even as I said, those first couple of weeks where I wasn't doing any training, Jesus, it was like a bear in work, So I think it keeps you seeing, it keeps your energy levels good. You eat better, you feel better. So I do think it's very important to both aspects of your life, keeping that level of training up.
Well, look, Caroline, we're going to take the crystal ball away from you and take the pressure off now and ask you about something more simple in netball shoes. We've launched a competition with our sponsors at Netball UK, supported by ASICS, to win a pair of their professional double FFs in black for an entire netball team, which I know Mags and Sarah think is a very good prize. Don't you girls, eh? Now, we know, Caroline, that you play in these. So can you just tell us why they're so... Oh, I feel like you're going to whip one out. There she goes. Yes. So for anyone who is listening, not seeing, can you just describe the shoe and why it is so good?
I suppose I made the switch over to a netball shoe about maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Initially, we wore a running shoe. They're difficult enough to get used to. They feel a bit different to a running shoe, but once you get used to them, you feel so secure in them. Certainly for changing direction, where I had quite a lot of ankle injuries, like most people, I think, roll their ankle on a regular basis. Once I started using these, I felt much more secure when I was changing direction, much more confident pushing off, and even just that risk, I think, was reduced, and certainly the number of injuries I had was reduced. Now I wouldn't, like if I go out onto a netball court with runners on, I feel like I'm naked, and that I'm completely at risk. But they're a brilliant shoe, very lightweight, and yeah, love them.
That's very
There's a
good.
recommendation.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we're on QVC. It's great, that. Thanks, Caroline. Now, before we let you go, we can't leave out the big money question, which is now even juicier since you were recently voted ahead of Sarah in the Manchester Thunder Dream Team to play at centre. Sorry, Sarah. Now, the pair of you swapped clubs with Sarah moving to Strathclyde Sirens after a number of seasons at Thunder and a stint in New Zealand, and you went the other way to Manchester. Now, you had some great battles on court against each other. What was it like filling those huge shoes that Sarah left behind in that centre court?
It's not that big. It's only
Those
size
big,
8.
big double Fs.
Make me sound like I've got boats.
What was that like, Caroline?
Yeah, it was a strange time because I love my time at Sirens, and they're a great franchise to be a part of. But I think the history in Thunder, and we saw even from that poll that was done, the quality of players that they had through the different years is phenomenal. Like in every position, you're kind of like, wow, God, I forgot they played for Thunder, and they have produced such great quality players. So to be approached by Thunder and be offered a contract was unbelievable. So it's kind of something you can really turn down. But yeah, I certainly was nervous and knew I had to pull my socks off. To try and get into the Thunder team. I knew that obviously Sarah, as we said, had left a big hole there, and I just had to put my head down and work hard and hope to try and I don't know, even I'm not even going to say I was compared to her, but yeah, do as best as I could.
Those big boat shoe holes there, Sarah, that you left behind.
Never going to fill those.
No one can fill those size 14s. You must have found the Thunder fans pretty great though. Like they've really kind of taken you as one of their own in Manchester, and they've got some crazy fans there.
Yeah, they certainly do, and some of the volunteers, they're just brilliant characters. But yeah, that's what makes it, isn't it? I mean, they definitely are the best fans in the franchise, and it makes such a difference. I mean, particularly our match last year, the semi-final against Bath, which was in Right Robbie. I mean, the atmosphere at that match was unbelievable, and the drum, which was talked about at length, it just added to the whole occasion, and it was such a tightly fought battle, and it was just a phenomenal atmosphere to be a part of.
So the question I'm going to ask you then, Caroline, is then the suggestion is that when netball does come back, that it will be behind closed doors without fans or supporters being there. Does it have an impact to your game, whether they are there or not? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, you definitely feel the difference. I mean, it's when you play like friendly matches or even tournament matches when there's less of a crowd there, it does take away from it, certainly. But as I said, I think for a sport, and in order to keep some momentum going, I don't think that we can completely rule that out as an option if it's the only way possible.
Yeah, agreed.
I think we've spoken about this before, but it's funny, Caroline, isn't it, how the goalposts change? It's kind of like at one point you would have thought that's completely unheard of. I couldn't deal with that. We're now going, do you know what? If it saves the sport and allows the season to continue or will go ahead, you're okay with it.
Yeah,
because it's the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, and I mean, there's obviously going to be a lot of issues in terms of import players and like even the likes of myself and Niamh Cooper and Fionnuala Toner who are based in Northern Ireland, getting over, so there are going to be a lot of obstacles, but I think that I suppose winning and losing, I think needs to be taken out of the question. It's more about the sport, and we have to be adaptable and do what's best for the sport and not for individuals or even just individual franchises. It's we want the sport to be seen, and we want to keep it in the public eye. We want to keep people interested and keep it on, on television, even if that's the only way possible.
Absolutely. Now, Caroline, before we let you go, have you got any advice as someone who is, dealing with this kind of, it's right in front of you, you're seeing this all the time. Any advice for any netballers out there at any level who might be struggling at the minute?
I suppose just keeping in contact with your teammates. It's as I said, yeah, like I find it difficult just having that motivation to keep going all the time. But I suppose even if you're not training to the same level that you would have been in season, just to keep yourself ticking over and not beat yourself up that you're not training at that level, because do you know what, there's no matches for the foreseeable. So you just want to keep your skills up. Maybe pick set yourself a target, pick a skill or something that you want to work on, and just do something that you mightn't have had the time to do maybe in a busy season.
Amazing. Caroline O'Hanlon, thank you so much. Thank you for jumping on Netball Nation, and thank you for as well keeping up the good work and keeping what is a weird world ticking over.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Stay
Take care.
safe.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right then, let's set the scene. You've travelled for 7 hours on a boiling hot coach only to arrive at National Schools Finals for the heavens to open. You've then got to wait 3 hours before your first game, but then as soon as you step on court and have the ball in your hands, it is all forgotten and you just want to play. So, Sarah, over to you first.
Yes.
What's your favourite memory, and I feel like this is going to be absolutely golden, of going on a netball tour or playing in a tournament for your school or club?
I feel like all my favourite memories from tour have nothing to do with netball. So
Don't say it. It's 98 watershed.
What goes on tour stays on tour.
Absolutely.
What is my favourite memory? I mean, we've spoken before about national schools, but national schools was always an epic tournament. Alex Barless, when that was around, into counties, they were always great tournaments. My mum was gutted because about a week ago she was meant to go to Spain for her walking netball. Girls on tour, had t-shirts made and everything. You know?
No.
Yeah, girls gone wild in the 60s.
Oh, bless her.
Oh, I bet. Can they not do like a Zoom holiday and all put the tops on?
Oh yeah, I think they're doing that. They're doing a session, you know, keeping the train up.
Well, do you know what? I hope they get to rearrange it when this is all over.
Oh, they'll do something. Don't worry. They'll probably just go out instead.
But Sarah, for you, I mean, pretend there's no watershed, right? You can say whatever you want. What is your number one memory that you have?
I think the best thing about tours is the fact that you're all together as a team. So usually the last night of tour is the best thing about tour, because you don't have to get up the next day. You can all go out, have a good time, do a bit of karaoke, you know, dance on the bar, celebrate your win, commiserate your loss. And actually, like, that's what makes a team. Like, you know, the winning and losing is obviously important. It becomes more important the higher up you go. But the reason everyone plays team sport is because you like being around other people. So when you get to go on tour and you don't just see them like for 2 hours on a Tuesday night, you get to see them for like a weekend or a whole week or whatever. It's like the best thing ever. It's like your best mates all like having sleepovers for a week.
Oh my God, that does sound amazing. Also, you mentioned karaoke there, and I seem to remember you two agreeing to do a duet this week, didn't you?
We've not confirmed.
Okay, well,
Mark's giving it the professional
testing.
fingers to the ear like she's tuning.
Max is ready to go. I'll tell you what, sorry, you could be backing vocals because I can tell you're not prepared.
Phoebe's all the way.
Max, what? Oh, sorry, nearly whipped my laptop out of the camper van. Max, what is for you? What's your memory?
You know, I didn't do the Alex Barless, but I did do the inter-counties, and very much what Sarah said about the friendships and being together all the time. They were like my sisters. I don't have sisters, so these girls that I played netball with were my family, because you ended up spending more time with those girls than you do with your own family, because invariably most of the girls play for the same club as you do, so you see them at club, you see them at county, and then you get off. And it's hard to explain to somebody if you've never been part of that kind of setup, that kind of a tournament. You lived for inter-counties. You could not wait to get on that coach, because it started the second you got on that coach. And back in the day, you know, there were beers and drink on coaches. You know, I don't know if Sarah was allowed that on with her county, but we had beers at the back of ours.
No, that's where you came of age. I think I started playing like senior counties when I was like 16, and the things I learned on the back of that coach, they do not teach you that at school. They do not teach you that at school.
Absolutely not.
Can you teach the Netball Nation listeners, please?
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. You know, and depending upon how old you were, the younger you were. So if you were like, if it was the under, you know, was it the under 18s or the under 21s or seniors, because the tournament was played over a couple of age groups. The younger you were at the back of the bus. But then you could tell as you were maturing and getting older, because you could tell how old you were by where you ended up on the bus. When I got to the front, I thought, hell no, time
I'm
to
getting
give it
off.
up.
I'm
That's
getting
what
off.
I think
Come
every
on.
time we get on the coach now. I'm like the person on the front seat. I'm like, what has
It's
happened
true,
to life?
isn't it? It
What a
is
loser.
so true.
Sarah's now the driver.
Yeah, literally, I'm the one chatting to the driver like, mate, are you got a
Keeping him
job after
awake.
this? How long you on for?
But for both of you, did you ever see anyone during that time and know, do you know what, you're going to be so successful, and then watch them go on and be successful?
Yeah, I saw. I remember seeing Pamela Cookie play. I think she was playing. I can't even remember who she was playing for. It might have been Gloucestershire. It might have been Bedfordshire before that. But we're the same age, and I was playing in, I think, the under 18s or whatever, and she was already playing seniors, and she was just insane, like in terms of her ability to get free, her movement, her pace. And I was like, who is that girl? And then someone was like, yeah, that's Pamela Cookie. I think she'd already made her England debut, you know, she's one of those overachievers. But I remember seeing her and just being like, oh my word. And then someone was like, yeah, she's like your age. I was like, right, so go home and have a word with myself.
We've already had this conversation about you being a late burner, Sarah. So
yeah, I know, but no, and it is fine. But you know, seeing someone like that, and then I think I had no concept either at the time of like what senior netball was about. You know, I played netball as a junior, and I played it, like I say, I played it because I loved it and because I loved my teammates, and we all had a good time and we were pretty good. And then to see that next level up is a bit like, oh, right, this is what we should be aiming for. This is what people can do. So that was pretty cool. And then, you know, I'm really good friends with Pam now, but kind of seeing her at that point and then seeing everything that she went on to achieve was awesome.
And
amazing. And what about you, Mags?
I think it's got to be Amanda Newton. I mean, honestly, if you've ever seen her play, if you've ever spent time in her company, you know she is a no mess kind of girl. And, you know, when you saw her on a court, she had a presence in the defence, you know, and shooters visibly shook when they knew that they were up against her, because she turned up for business. Don't step on her unless you're going to give me a game. And she was physically, you know, she was physically just amazing. She was athletic. She was fearless. And, you know, she was the difference between sometimes, you know, teams winning and losing. So you just knew she was going to pull out the bag, some amazing interception, or you knew she was going to cause a shooter to crumble and turn the ball over and send it back up court for her team. She was just phenomenal. And look where she ended up. She's done some amazing things.
And, you know, when we've like talked in previous pods about shorter defenders taking on taller shooters, Amanda's a little bit shorter than me. Like she was like 5'10" or so for a defender. At the international level, she wasn't just good nationally, she was like world-class defender, like one of the best defenders I've ever seen. And she wasn't that big, but you know, you talk about the presence of it and the aura around her, and you talk about players like having like super strengths, you know, like what are they insanely good at? And Amanda's was that presence and that mindset of like, you are not going to beat me. Like
it's true. And even to this day, I mean, and she's honest. She's straight talking and she's honest, which I think some people struggle a little bit with, but I kind of like that.
Yeah, and you said, you know, that a lot of your best memories, Sarah, don't actually involve the netball. How important?
No, the tours, I can't even remember the games. I'm not even joking. Like England tours, people will talk to me about like internationals we played, and I'm like, I can't remember that game at all. But I don't forget any of the stuff that happened off court.
Yeah, I was going to say all the juicy bits off court. But how important would you say that's been in moulding you both and helping to shape you both in your careers?
What, the on-court stuff or the off-court?
Yeah.
I want to say both, but I feel like it's the off-court stuff for you.
No, I think it does, because I think, you know, you go, especially international tours, you go away on tour and you're a long way from home usually, and you go through like great, amazing wins, and you go through tough times. You get injured away from home. It's not a nice time. you take a hammering from the Aussies, it's not a nice time. You have a massive dip in form, and there's things you kind of learn about yourself and about the people around you when you're getting through those sorts of times, that kind of really does shape who you become and what kind of person you are. And I think, like, we're joking a lot about the off-court stuff, but I really struggled, like in my international career, to find a balance between having fun and playing well, because I almost wouldn't allow myself to have fun until all the playing was over, because I felt guilty, like I was there to do a job, and I like when I finished training, I should be going away and recovering, and then I should probably be watching video. I shouldn't be going out and for coffee or going seeing people I knew in the area or whatever. And I almost felt guilty if I switched off. And only towards the end of my international career did I realise that I needed to do that in order to get headspace away from the game. And because I think as a younger player internationally, I really struggled with it because I put so much pressure on myself, and it takes time to learn those things about yourself.
I think that's really good advice, because for anyone watching this now who's young, and that kind of understanding that it's a balance, you've got to balance off what's going to help you mentally that's actually going to help you physically, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I was especially bad if I felt like I hadn't played well. I then didn't want anyone to see me, even my own team, like being happy or enjoying myself, because I felt like I'd let them down. You know, I'd not played well. So what right did I then have to be happy about it, or to be out for ice cream or whatever? And when I got older, I was like, my God, I need to loosen up a little bit. Like, it's not the end of the world. It's devastating because it's your job and it's what you want to be really good at. But, you know, people aren't sitting around waiting for you to smile and then jump on it because you...
No, people want you to smile.
They do. And Sarah, do you wish you'd found that balance and that mindset a little bit earlier? Was there nobody around you? Was there nobody around you in that group of girls that you were playing with at that time that maybe you could have gone to and spoken to, or that recognised that and could say something to you?
I think there was to some extent, and I think people kind of did try and help me a little bit. But I think there's also an acceptance in sport that people are very different, and I think like the best thing for me, which sounds awful, was probably tearing my ACL, because when I came back from that, my mindset around the game, especially the international game, was completely different in terms of this can all be taken away, so you need to enjoy it. It's not about just hammering yourself and trying to win all the time and pulling every single performance apart piece by piece. It's you're doing this because you enjoy it, so make the most of it because you don't know when it's going to end. And that kind of changed things for me. And I think seeing players come through, the likes of Serena, who is much more lighthearted all the time, like win, lose or draw, you can get a joke out of it. And I was like, this girl's one of the best players in the world, and she's not like, she is hard on herself, but she's not like not going out of her room because she's not played well. Like it's something that I do wish I'd learned earlier, because I enjoyed my netball much more at the end of my career than I did at the beginning.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, Emma.
No, go on.
When it was my time international, there was a cohort of us that were very, very much like-minded. And when I say very much like-minded, we were kind of like, I suppose you'd probably say that we're a little bit naughty, you know. So for as much as we were there to do a job, and we felt all the same emotions that Sarah felt about, we've lost again to Australia. But do you know what? Silver lining, they only beat us by 12 this time instead of 18 or something like that. And that, to a point, felt acceptable, whereas we know it isn't. But this group of us, and they know who they are, we always managed to do something that without the coach knowing. You know, we always managed to sneak out, not drinking, but we'd sneak out and do something together. You know, even if it was a beach in Perth, beautiful beach near to where we were stopping, just all the 5 or 6 of us, just sit out and just talk and chat and laugh and giggle to get away from the seriousness of why we were there. You know, and with this one particular person, she knows who she is. You know, we snuck out to see a podiatrist of all things.
Crazy.
Yeah. Oh, we know how to.
It got wild.
But what we've done was we stayed out a little bit later than we should have done, and we get back to this accommodation where we should be, and all the doors are locked. But there's one window open, which is into the ladies' toilets, and she's slimmer than I am. I got too much booty. She ain't got none. So she's lifted up, I'm lifting her up to get her back into this dormitory, this university, and she gets in, lets me in, but then she's bruised all down the front, and she's having to explain to the coach how she's got this bruise all the way down her. So, we always manage to find a balance, but then, it's a long time ago.
Well, I think the balance is really important, and I think I think players and coaches probably appreciate it more now, that actually, giving players something outside of netball and letting them switch off is actually really helpful. I remember we were on tour in New Zealand, and it was like a 3.5 week tour or something. It was quite long, and they'd only given us 1 day off. So we were like, right, we're going to make the most of this day. So we were in Rotorua, and we went like luging down the mountain in the morning, and then whitewater rafting in the afternoon.
I love it.
This mammoth day, and then someone had a twisted ankle or something from whitewater rafting.
No.
We're like, you're just going to have to strap it up and go, like, just get on with it.
But talking about New Zealand, I think that's why I have this. I absolutely love New Zealand. I think it's my most favourite place in the world. I think the people are amazing. The Kiwi national team, those girls just party like animals. And they're probably, along with the girls from Ireland as well, after it's all done, all the competition's done, whether it be World Champs, whether it be a test series, they are the first people to say, right, you've got half an hour, get yourself sorted, we're out, we're going to party hard, we'll make sure you get home in the morning. And they're the most wonderful hosts and most wonderful people, as well as being awesome athletes.
Well, I could tell you, I did the rounds of a few after parties at World Cup, and New Zealand's was the only one with a free bar.
There you go. There you go.
That says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what, girls? It's really nice to just hear you both. You could tell how happy you were just casting your minds back and talking about those memories. And it's so nice just hearing it. And even, Sarah, you reflecting on it and realising that actually it's that whole thing of stripping it back to basics and remembering why you even started playing netball in the first place. It's the enjoyment of it and the social aspects of it, wanting to be around people and part of a team. And I think anyone listening to that who's younger, no offense to you guys, is going to take no, but really, really, like, I was listening going, that's great advice, that's really, really good advice. And now it is your turn. So if you've been on tour, we want you to share your tournament pictures, your stories. Did you go and visit a podiatrist? Let us know. Were you as wild as Mags? Did you
I
go?
don't think anyone's tours as wild as that.
Please do send them to us so that we can feature them on our social media channels. Get them sent in to hello@mynetballnation.com. Right, we move on, girls. It seems like forever since we've been able to say it with confidence, but netball is coming back.
Woohoo!
Yes.
Oh.
New Zealand's ANZ Premiership set to return on the 19th of June. Now, the season's been shortened to 10 weeks, and every game is going to be played at the Auckland Netball Centre behind closed doors. Sarah, what was your initial thoughts when you heard this?
Mainly just excited, that we're going to see some netball this year, that, one of the main leagues is going to get it done. And I think New Zealand, it's like we've talked about before, their league's kind of gone under the radar a little bit for the last couple of years, but there's been some great matches, so I'm excited that it'll probably get a little bit more exposure, and we'll all be watching it because we're all dying.
There's nothing else.
But obviously, behind closed doors, no fans, Mags. Is it a case of it's better than nothing?
I think every netball player that plays at that level, and Caroline said it herself, during her interview, of course they would love the fans there for the atmosphere that they bring. But do you know what? If we need to be playing these games behind closed doors for the safety of all individuals, and we're still getting to see it, probably some would say from the best seat in the house, because you can sit at home and watch it and you get a great view, then yeah, absolutely, it's better than nothing. Let's get it televised and let's watch it.
Absolutely. And do you think this is going to give sort of netballers around the world hope of their leagues returning sooner?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it will. You know, sport coming back kind of makes everything feel a bit more normal, doesn't it? And I think it will definitely give netballers hope that, you know, we will be back at some point, and seeing them. You know, New Zealand have done a really good job of just having very few deaths from COVID, and kind of locking down and almost getting rid of it to some extent. So hopefully if we can get to that point, we'll be where they are now.
And do you think, Max, from your point of view, does it maybe give New Zealand a bit of an advantage on the international stage that they're restarting before everyone else?
Well, I know that most teams are looking at a 4-week running to get them back up and training with the coaches and the connections back on court. If they were going to still run the Constellation Cup in September, I think it is, then New Zealand, who are playing that, would have a 4-week, maybe 6-week advantage on the Aussies, who are probably not going to be back together as a combined unit playing. But I can't see them playing that tournament in September. Everything's going to get pushed back. So initially, you would think that they would have an advantage. But I think long term, it won't make any difference.
Okay. And do you agree with that, Sarah?
Yeah, I don't think you'll see Australia or New Zealand internationally until next year.
Yeah.
So
Still a call.
I think by then it's probably leveled itself out, because I imagine both those leagues will get played, and then they'll both have a relatively normal lead up to the internationals. So yeah, I mean, it's great that they're the first to start, but yeah, I think it'll probably level out by then.
And do you think, with it obviously being played behind closed doors and, you know, people being able to watch it on telly, do you think with there being a lack of sport at the minute that actually it could bring new fans to netball?
Yeah, I mean, it could do. And I know New Zealand rugby are going back soon as well. So I think in New Zealand, they'll probably have the same competitors in terms of, you know, who's watching sport and different sports playing. But I think internationally, they're the only like major netball league playing. And then hopefully everyone here in this country is dying for sport to watch. Everyone's so excited about the German football league coming back. I'm like, I've never heard of some of these teams, but I'm going to watch it all day. So hopefully that's the same for netball.
And I think they're filming everything. They're showing all the games live on Sky as well.
Yeah, I think they're on Sky, and I think you can get them on Facebook as well. So
yeah, hit every medium. Yeah.
Yeah, so well, hopefully it will attract new fans during this time. But I mean, over here in England, obviously we had a really clear and concise speech from Boris the other day about what we're going to do moving forward.
Clear and concise.
I was waiting for you to click on.
Sounded like one of my team talks.
Yeah. She said something, but I'm not sure what it was.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you both, kind of in a word, what did you take from that speech?
A word?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I've got no idea. I'm more confused now than I've ever been during this entire lockdown.
Well, we're all in agreement with that then.
Yeah.
But it was also announced that elite sport's not permitted to restart until at least the 1st of June, which times in the Netball Super League saying there's going to be no decision until at least the 31st of May. So if it happens, how does Super League fare without fans? Is that okay with you guys?
I mean, Sarah will see it from a different perspective to myself. It still comes back to that, better than nothing at all. But we've already had the comparisons about we need bums on seats within the English game, because everybody, I would suggest every franchise has been hit financially by something that's been completely out of their control. So yeah, of course, get Sky in. Let's see if we can do a deal where Sky actually watch every single game and televise every single game. Would fans pay to watch it? Yeah, I think a nominal fee. They probably would if they don't already have Sky Sports. But it's the financial implication, isn't it, again, that keeps running round.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. I mean, is it possible? Can they stay afloat without bums on seats, without fans, without that revenue?
No, in a word. So, I mean, agreed, like we'd all love to see some netball played, and I think, you know, behind closed doors looks more likely than anything.
Yeah.
But from franchises' perspective, it's more revenue that they can't regain. So you're paying players at the minute. I'm not saying they're doing nothing, but you're paying them when they're not playing, and then you will continue to pay them. But then you will have all your game costs and travel costs and everything else on top of that when you're still not recouping anything. So for a lot of franchises, it's a little bit like, well, it doesn't make financial sense. It makes sense in terms of wanting to play netball and the game, but it doesn't make financial sense. So I'm not sure.
Because you put yourself even further into the
Yeah,
red.
you're just digging yourself a deeper hole, and I'm not sure all 10 franchises would be willing to do that.
And I mean, Sarah, even from a personal point of view, how do you feel? Because we've heard a few football players come out and go, we don't feel comfortable coming out and playing now because the world needs to see sport. How do you feel about a sport resuming before there is a vaccine or before we get it fully under control in this country?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's different. Like, I'm currently with my parents. If we were told we were going to start in June, I would go back and live on my own because I wouldn't risk that. And so, but some people don't have that option. You know, players and staff who are going home to vulnerable friends and family. Like, I can understand them not wanting to do that and not wanting to put themselves at risk, because why should sports people over anyone else? Like, the frontline workers do an insane job, and they're putting themselves at risk. And I think you can ask people to do it, but you can't assume that they should because they're an athlete and, you know, we all want some entertainment.
How do you respond to that? So if someone comes and says, no, I don't feel comfortable training, I don't feel comfortable playing, for
me, I think it's what we just spoke about. It's not about netball and it's not about a job. But if someone says I don't want to play, I don't feel safe, then they don't play.
You have to respect it, don't you?
People. You've got to respect people for being people rather than just seeing them as a netballer or an employee. It's like it's a lot bigger than this. And I think if this outbreak has taught us anything, it's kind of taught us what's important. And I think that's more important than us seeing a game played.
Absolutely. You've spoken a lot of sense today, Sarah. Thank you.
Are you suggesting to do it normally?
I would not do that. Now, before we wrap up, guys, do either of you have any shout-outs?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, I'm afraid. Sarah, I don't know about you.
No, not. I mean, we're running out of mates, aren't we, that we've seen in the last...
Yeah.
I know. Should we give a shout-out?
All frontline workers as all.
Yes.
Everyone clap hard on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Yes, make sure you come out and celebrate them. Also, shout out to our producer Alex, who, for anyone watching, won't see him, but Alex is in the background keeping this all ticking over. So thank you very much to producer Alex, who, you know, looks quite creepy right now because we can't see him, but he can see us. But who has kept Netball Nation going for the entirety of the second series.
That's a good shout, Emma. Yeah, Alex, we love you, Alex.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you guys, as always, our Netball Nation listeners, for being part of our team. Now, before we say toodle pip for this week's show, here's a reminder of that competition that Sarah and Mags love so much. Now, to keep your team netballing with Netball Nation, powered by Netball UK and supported by ASICS, we are giving you the chance to win a pair of ASICS professional double F black netball trainers for you and every member of your team, so that when you finally back together, you'll be wearing shoes that let you be the best you can be on court. And they're also going to have your name printed on it, so they're not going walkies. Right there, and as we know, as we've seen earlier, Sarah and Mags both have their names printed.
Sarah, let's twinning. Let's do it again to show them.
One more time. SEBMAGS. There we go. In gold as well. It's beautiful. Yeah. Now then, to enter, all you've got to do is go to www.keepnetballing.uk, where you can also read all the terms and conditions. Best of luck with that. Thank you, Mags and Sarah, as always, for joining us. Thank you guys for listening to Netball Nation, powered by Netball UK. We'll be back here in our living rooms and camper vans same time next week. Thank you.
Bye.
This is Netball Nation.